3, 2, 1.
We'd like to welcome you to another edition of GrokTALK, brought to you by New Hampshire's leading conservative blog site, GrokTALK.com. We are your feared extremist, right-wing, hard-charging, gun-toting, opinionated, outspoken, rabble-rousing, letter-writing, radio microphone-stomping conservatives and rational libertarians. So get ready for more news and opinion you could only get from GrokTALK.com.
GrokTALK.
All right. It's GrokTALK. Hey, I was thinking on the way here, if you have a budget and you add, I don't know, $500 million to it, is that a cut? I'll ask you, Greg, because you're an expert on this sort of thing. Greg Moore is with us. Mike Rogers is here. Skip has the day off. Kimberly Morin will be joining us in a couple of seconds. She's on the phone. Later on, we're going to have Brent Gardner, the VP of Government Affairs from AFP, on the Import-Export Bank, or is it the Export-Import Bank?
Exim,
Export-Import. We're going to talk about that.
We'd like to make it the X-Bank, but that
Yes.
never happens.
We're also going to have Michelle Lavelle later in the program to talk about some education legislation, and Jane Cormier is going to come in to tell us about her wild ride this week, and we'll get to that.
And Mike will tell you why the UK now looks like The Simpsons.
And we are going to talk about that because Greg brought it up. He wanted to talk about that too. But the first segment is dedicated to the lovely and talented Kimberly Morin, who wanted to give us a little update on the Balsams vote this week and some pissed off legislators and some other fun things that went on. So, hey, how you doing, Kimberly?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. Sorry you couldn't be in studio with us today. It's unfortunate.
Yeah, those ignoring the alarms doesn't work out quite well.
Don't you have dogs or something?
But my dogs sleep until 10, 11, or 12.
Oh, man.
Dogs.
My dogs are up at like 5.
No, I don't have that problem. And sometimes it's a bad thing because they would wake me up on time, when I need to get up for things like this.
I can't possibly sleep past 5:30. It just doesn't work. I'm up. So I just plan to be up. It's just the way it is. So, interesting legislative week. Reminder that Kimberly is a contributor at Manchester Buzz, Examiner, and the FederalistPapers.com.org. I forget.
Me too.
Oh, okay.
It's
fine. Not Federalist. It's not the Federalist. It's the Federalist Papers.
Or Federalist Papers, yeah.
But she's cranking out some great stuff about New Hampshire and legislation and what's going on around here, so you should go check those things out.
And,
so anyway.
and there's so much official malfeasance to crank stuff out about.
There's no shortage. So, Kimberly.
So.
What's up your bonnet? What bee would you like to start with?
Wow. Okay.
It could be any bee, but balsams would probably be a good one.
Well, there was talk of flamethrowers, punches to the neck. There was a lot of rhetorical violence.
Throat punching.
Yes, throat punching.
Let me hang on. I want to give you the exact words. I'll talk about the balsams real quick, and then I'll talk about a maroon we have running in Rockingham 32.
A maroon.
Isn't it a cookie?
A cookie. A macaroon.
A macaroon, okay.
That was a nice word. It's not like my preferred word.
The tale of the ancient marooner.
Hey, Skip might be sick, but he's probably listening, so I'm not getting in trouble.
Remember, we are not regulated by the FCC yet.
But believe me, I have a blog talk radio show up that's just myself and another woman on Wednesday nights, and we push those limits.
Oh, good for you. Where's the show streamed from?
It's Blog Talk Radio. It's called War by Women.
Okay.
We fight against the left-wing feminazi.
Right. We need to promote that too, though. So let's just make sure. Remind me later, and we'll talk about doing some promotion for that. So okay.
So really quick about the Balsams. Obviously, it passed in the House, huge margin. Only 57 Republicans voted against it. 56 Republicans, 1 Democrat voted against SB 30. That's the Senate Bill 30, which made allowed unincorporated places like Dixville Notch, which has 25 residents maybe, to be incorporated and be able to be a tax district, etc.
And they said it was about the ability of these districts to fund certain projects, etc. And everybody giving evidence pro was talking about the balsams and the great benefits it would bring. And as soon as you said, balsams, problems, they said, well, it's not about the balsams.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what some of the legislators like to say. Oh, it's not really about the balsams. Really? Then why wasn't this brought up 5 or 10 years ago? Because Coos County hasn't been doing great for longer than that, probably.
Oh, wait a second. We had the Coos County tax credit that created 7 jobs. Remember that a couple of years ago?
Oh, I wrote a great article about that over on watchdog.org, and I went through the numbers. They actually have had no increase in employed people since they started the program. The exact same number of people are employed and unemployed as when we started spending money to change that.
To employ them. Well, in the Business Finance Authority, which I'm doing even more research on because they've got some sketchy deals that they've invested money into. They have spent money up in Berlin and up in North Country. I don't think it created any jobs. The Business Finance Authority doesn't seem to create many jobs. They like to say they preserve them. It's like New Hampshire's version of Obama's shovel-ready jobs program. So huge waste of taxpayer money for nothing.
Jobs created or preserved?
Yeah.
They preserved jobs in state government. They preserved jobs in their organization, probably.
Yeah.
But, not for the men on the street.
So, but what the new thing I found out, and I didn't know this before, and you guys know how much I've been involved in this and researching it, and so there's still a ton more stuff to find out. But some representatives received an email, and it's about the financing. How would the funding structure work for the project? And, they talk about the owner's investment, construction financing, senior secured bank debt, which means they get paid first, and then the state guarantee of a private bond, which is where we come in. But what it says is a private lender has been identified that will provide financing for both the senior secured debt and the senior secured bond, provided that the Balsams is able to secure credit enhancement from the state of New Hampshire in the form of the guarantee proposed in SB 30. So when I told you guys a couple weeks how Les Otten said, well, Plan B is Plan A, that's because he can't get financing, whether it be private investors or private lenders, unless the state backs him up.
Then what you're basically saying is that these people won't put their money on the line unless it's not on the line.
That's right.
Nice.
Or at least unless we're taking the first dent when there's any damage, any monies to be paid out. Clearly, the developer's not putting up enough of his own money to make the investors feel comfortable. Either that or the deal's so bad that they need 90% of it to be underwritten. And the state has no business being in this.
And to be clear, I don't think it's about the balsams per se. Mm-hmm. It's about why is the state in the business of giving loans out that the private sector says, whoa, we don't want to touch that one.
And the other issue is that this is just the first proposed bailout or investment is the word I think.
It's not even as if they have a sports team that's threatening to leave the state if their stadium at the Balsams is not renovated.
Wait a second, we just lost a sports team in Manchester, so we're not going to rebuild the Verizon now, are we?
Oh, you never know. Sorry, squirrels, go ahead.
So, well, I was just letting you guys go off in your squirrely way.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. That's what we like about you.
So that was the latest about the Balsams. I'm also researching more into the Business Finance Authority now, too, because I got their annual reports, and they're not very transparent of an organization. Shocking, I know. But some of their deals that I've seen that they've given money to is like Steve Dupre for a building.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I remember that email.
Yeah. And then somebody else, some woman who is being charged with fraud from the SEC. Oh, yay. So,
fraud, here's a check.
Yeah, exactly. And here's your sign, taxpayers.
Yeah, no kidding.
So I'm looking into that further, but I wanted to give you that update about the Balsams because I just saw that yesterday, or the day before yesterday. I was like, "Are you kidding me?" They couldn't go forward with this. Here I was just thinking Les Otten was Baruch Assault. Well, he is. He's quite arrogant, but
the band, or the character,
the character.
Okay.
The band is actually good. I think Willy Wonka, but they didn't tell this. They didn't tell this in the hearing in the House committee. They didn't say a private lender will not give him money unless the state backs it up as well. Because if they had said that, I think a lot of more reps might have said, "Oh my God, no way! well, who knows?
Well, the first thing I did was to post that of the 8 reps in my district in Merrimack, New Hampshire, only one of them, the freshman, the youngest, Josh Moore, voted the correct.
No relation.
No relation. Well, we had Ron Moore, his father, on last week, and we have you, and there's a lot of more. There's more and more and more. And he was the only one who voted the conservative small government vote. He voted against it. And the rest of them, some of them who are pretty good conservatives otherwise, voted the wrong way. And I'm waiting. Yep. I haven't heard any blowback yet, but I'm thinking maybe I ought to just show up at the next town Republican meeting and see who has words for me, because that's a debate I would love to have, especially given the new revelations. But the old stuff was more than adequate. There's no reason for a conservative Republican to vote for this thing.
No, they shouldn't have ever. And, I heard so many of them that are supposedly liberty Republicans or whatever say, it's only fair.
Yeah.
Really? So because we've been doing something stupid and backwards and screwing the taxpayers over for all these years, we should just keep doing it and add some more groups into that mix.
Well, it's Coos County's turn, right? The taxpayers have been screwed over for everybody else. Now it's their turn.
Yeah, well, do you know that's what they said? Some of the people from Coos County who testified actually said that. It's our turn now. I was like, oh, my God. People don't realize what they're doing to themselves or to the rest of the state by backing someone who basically had to resign as CEO from American Skiing Company and left the company $400 million in debt.
Maybe they just need to raise the timber tax.
They can't. Even if they raise the timber tax, it doesn't matter because over 5,000 acres, it belongs to a conservation org. That is useless, unvaluable land to the balsam.
Need to start taxing those conservative conservation groups.
I'm off for that.
Maybe the IRS should be, special focus on that.
So who owns the conservation land? Is that what's their name? Nature Conservancy?
It's not Nature Conservancy. It's lakes and mountains, something or other.
Lakes and mountains, trees, ducks, squirrels.
Well, Nature Conservancy does a fairly good job of identifying plots of land and working with the owners to basically lock it up, and they put money in.
No, this is the Forest Society.
Okay.
I hadn't heard.
Elves and gnomes and things. Oh my.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe it's the Clinton Foundation.
It could be.
It could be.
Some Saudi money in there to lock up our land in the north.
That's right. They're gonna drill for arsenic. Big business.
It's in the wells. It's in the wells.
Yeah, anytime you drill into granite, you're going to find some arsenic.
That's right. We have tons of it. So anyway, we're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to move on to the second half of our little maroons. We're going to talk about macaroons. So hang on. Let me just push some little buttons, and we will be right
Electoral
back.
maroons.
Maroons.
Of New Hampshire taxpayers. We're located at 8 North Main in Concord, New Hampshire. This is the repository for all things conservative and municipal. So if you have a problem in your town, your school, your budget committee, the right to know law, and now at the top of our list is voter fraud. You have a tip for us, some information for us, you want to join or help us out, cnht.org.
Hi, this is Rich Gerard, host of Gerard at Large in the Morning, the Manchester area's only locally owned, locally operated, focused, and interested riveting radio show, heard live every Monday through Friday from 6 to 9 on 90.7 FM WLMW New Hampshire Family Radio, and available 24/7 live or archived at GerardAtLarge.com. Be sure to tune in.
It's GrokTALK. That's really loud. Sorry about that. Welcome back. Mike Rogers, Greg Moore. I'm Steve McDonald. We have Kimberly Morin on the line. And more news about Maureen Maroon Macaroon Man.
I knew that was coming. Now I'm going to say that and think that every time I write her name.
Good. See, we're all about the nicknames here. So
they call me the Boston Mangler. No name is safe.
So, you guys know there's a special election coming up on May 19th in Rockingham District 32, which incorporates Nottingham, Northwood, Deerfield, and Candia.
Yeah.
I think you guys have had Yvonne Dean Bailey on. She's a Republican running. And then there's Maureen Mann, the Democrat, who's running. And to make no mistake, I typically don't really get too involved in elections. It depends. It really depends on because there's 400 state reps. I don't have time for all of that. So I wasn't involved in this election at all, but I kept seeing on Twitter that Democrats were pushing Maureen Mann, and then I kept seeing letters to the editor that were really demeaning and condescending towards Yvonne Dean Bailey because she's 19 years old, not 72 like Maureen Mann. So I looked into it. I looked into it. I'm like, who the heck is this Maureen Mann person? Because I had no idea. I had met Yvonne Dean Bailey a couple of times, but I didn't know who Maureen Mann was. I never heard of her before when she voted, and she was actually a state rep.
The future of the Democrat Party is really old white women.
Is she related to the corrupt Manns of Pennsylvania?
As
in Michael Hockey Stick Man?
She hasn't done that much research. Anyway.
I'm not even interested in that much research. But so I looked into it, and on her website, Mann has I got to find it. She has a quote saying how she protects individual rights. She's fiscally responsible, and she's about her constituents doing what doing what they want, whatever. So I looked into her voting record because she has one, and let me tell you, it's all lies. Not only did she vote for the buffer zone bill, but she voted to repeal Stand Your Ground, which of course both are against our rights. And she voted for every Obamacare bill that came across her desk, Medicaid expansion. She voted to raise taxes, et cetera, et cetera. That's not why I'm here talking about it. The thing that has gotten me, and I've written about this, and of course, I'm just a Republican troll because I write about it.
Right, even though you're an independent.
Yeah.
I think we're being told her voting record is graded an F.
Yeah, AFP gave former Representative Mann an F rating.
Yeah, not a shocker. That's how bad she is. But because she just voted along the party line. She's typical Democrat. She voted how the Democrat Party told her to vote. But she's lying because it's a Republican district. She's lying to voters and saying, I'm bipartisan and I'm, all these things that Republicans want to hear or want in a representative. She's lying and saying she is when she's not. So, but the thing about this is, reading all these letters to the editor, they must really be scared about Dean Bailey because they're like in overtime with all these letters to the editor and pushing Mann. And what I found is some of the reasoning behind why Yvonne Dean Bailey shouldn't be the rep because she doesn't own a home or pay property taxes. And
neither
then
did Maggie Hassan.
Exactly. Maggie Hassan was a state legislator, and she didn't. And when she ran for governor, she still didn't own a home or pay property taxes, although she certainly voted to raise them on people when she was in the state legislature. So it's okay for Maggie Hassan running for governor to not own a home or pay property tax, but not for Yvonne Dean Bailey. Really?
I seem to recall back in 2012 when there was an ad, I think it was the Republican Governors Association ran it, that criticized Governor Hassan for not paying property taxes. Yep. And maybe I've totally lost my mind in the last few years, but I seem to recall the left as a whole in the New Hampshire Democratic Party coming out and rather violently attacking that ad as being totally inappropriate.
I can tell you that I posted the ad. No exposition. No words from me. Just the title and the video. And in 2012, that was the most commented on post on Granite Grok. Just the video. So we could go there and pull quotes from people who will be like Timothy Horrigan and others. And say, that doesn't matter. You're just being mean.
Yeah, I wrote about it, too. I posted the video and wrote about it, too, for Examiner. Mm-hmm. Because, here Hassan was raising taxes, but yet she wasn't going to have to be, responsible for the downfall of paying them.
Oh, wait. You know what it is? This is what it is. You have to be. If Yvonne Dean Bailey was the elitist left-wing president of a very exclusive private school that they don't want regular children to attend, then it would be okay.
Well, that goes to the next point.
Oh, I'm so glad I'm feeding you.
You are, because even Maureen Mann was on that troll that lives under a bridge, John Hopwood show. Listen, I knew the guy was a troll, and I knew the guy was whacked out of his mind, but I had never seen him in person or, like, live on television until the other day when I was watching this video, and I almost died. I was laughing so hard.
Well, we're glad you didn't. Safety first.
That's fabulous.
So she's on the show, and this is back in April, and she admits, I don't know my opponent very well, but she wants to make assumptions about her anyway. And she's like, and Maureen Mann thought it was great that Dean Bailey had parents who could afford to send her to Phillips Exeter Academy, implying they must be wealthy to do so. Except Yvonne Dean Bailey's father died when she was a 6-year-old little girl. Her widowed mother raised her all these years by herself. Obviously, she did a damn good job. But they're trying to paint, Maureen set the tone, trying to paint Yvonne Dean Bailey as entitled or an elitist, and that's what I've seen in comments from Democrats. She's entitled, and she's an elitist.
Well, that's the headline is Democratic left smears child of single mom.
Yeah, because they don't care about the little people. So, the other flip side to that is, okay, so what about Maureen Mann? Is she a rich elitist? I bet she is. And of course, she's trying to paint herself as the blue dog, almost conservative Democrat, when she's really the blue rinse beach set. Well,
she's living on teacher's pension right now. I mean, she was a teacher. She's totally that. So that's, I don't know on top of further on that, because it's not even worth going into that further, because her record speaks for itself, and that's why no one should vote for her. But this is one of my points, is they're not talking about Yvonne Dean Bailey on where she stands on issues. They're attacking her on a personal level because she went to Phillips Exeter, which, Maggie Hassan's daughter did too. How many other Democrat daughters?
Exactly. It's a left-leaning school with a Muslim headmaster and a communist living on premises.
Yeah, but the income from Phillips Exeter is what allowed Maggie Hassan to just be a state senator and to run for governor. She didn't have to work a job; she could do that.
Right. Well, and it's not even that. It's Yvonne Dean Bailey got scholarships, and she worked really hard, and they're basically just being condescending and demeaning and taking that away from her, that she worked really hard. I actually saw a letter to the editor, and I was shocked when I read this one. And this is what got me involved in this election. This woman said, Maureen Mann does all this stuff. She works tirelessly. I don't know how she does it. And then in the next paragraph, she said, I don't know how Yvonne Dean Bailey is going to go to school full-time and write and be a state rep. Really? Yvonne Dean Bailey's 19 years old. She can get 2 hours of sleep and still function.
Maureen probably needs 12.
You know what? That's what I'm saying. Like, did this woman really just say that? This is the kind
Apparently she doesn't know the power of Red Bull.
Or Monster.
Yeah. So Greg's obviously from the younger set here, and he's flashing his can of Monster here as he energizes himself.
0 calories, Saturday. Nothing but zip.
That's right. There's nothing but flame in here.
But this is the thing. Like, they're saying that the letters to the editor. One of them I saw from some guy. I can't find it now. I tried to find it again to get the exact quote, but he said something like, "Don't just vote for the pretty face." I was like, "What?"
Well, that's sexist, isn't it?
Wow,
this is sort of a Steve Valancourt moment,
They're just pulling all the stops out, aren't they? Well, the election's on the 19th, right?
Would they rather we voted for the troll that lives under the bridge?
Yeah, the Democrats would. But so this is my point, is they're not talking about the issues. They're saying she's too young, she doesn't own a home, she doesn't have life experience. They don't know because they don't ask her. I'm pretty sure she's had some great life experiences, and considering her her life situation, and the fact that she did have to work hard, and she did get scholarships, and she did get good grades.
You know, if she was a Democrat, she'd be their darling because she went to Phillips Exeter Academy. She's been an intern for a U.S. Senate candidate, a congressional candidate.
Raised by a single parent.
Raised by a single mom. You know, this is a left-wing dream, and yet because she doesn't agree with them, they have to trash her.
Well, that's true, and you know, any candidate that would be normally considered to be part of their Democrat base, if you step off the reservation, they're going to trash you. It doesn't matter if you're black.
Well, they put
Hispanic.
Mines all the way to the outside of the reservation.
I mean, and I'm sure Yvonne has seen this before
she's
for
familiar.
Mary Linda's campaign, where someone who would on paper seem to be like the ideal Democratic candidate by record, and as Mike said, she didn't follow the orthodoxy, and so therefore she needed to be savaged.
Right.
Well, and that's what it is, because, you know, and it's so funny because Democrats and Republicans too always say, we want to keep young people in New Hampshire. Well, this is a great example. This is a great reason for young people to want to stay. Here you have a young, intelligent woman who not only wants to stay in New Hampshire, but she wants to actually be a part of making New Hampshire better and representing her constituents. And they're slamming her and trashing her for being young.
You know, she also went to an exclusive female left-wing education institution in Massachusetts, where they refuse to have the vagina monologues because never mind, we won't go there. You know, she fits the profile. So anyway, you got about a minute. The special election's on May 19th, correct?
It's on May 19th.
So it's a week from Tuesday.
And what towns is that again?
It's Nottingham, Northwood, Candia, and Deerfield. It's a special election. Maureen Mann originally won during a special election because Republicans didn't get their butts out and vote. Well, now they need to, because this woman, Maureen Mann, is extremely far left. Her voting record proves it. You don't even need to believe me. Go look at her voting record, and then go listen to her on the Troll That Lives Under the Bridges show to see how she is.
You might want to send us a link to that, and we'll post up the episode of The Troll Who Lives Under a Bridge.
Yeah, you could
show.
Just post it yourself.
Yes, of course.
If you want. I mean, even just...
I wrote a blog. I just didn't get a chance to post it yet because I woke up late.
Well, you know, everybody...
You didn't want to disturb the bullies.
You're right.
Now, you can put fresh content up while we're talking.
That's right. You know, are the dogs up yet?
No.
Okay, good for them. They're getting their beauty sleep. So, well, thank you so much for taking some time to give us these updates. Once again, everybody, the election is 10 days, a week from Tuesday, on May 10th. Special election, we'll be writing about it a lot in the next week, I suspect.
And Yvonne Dean Bailey is a true conservative.
And we're going to be right back with Greg Moore from Americans for Prosperity, New Hampshire. Everybody, stay tuned. We'll be right back.
When asked whether she still supports Obamacare, Senator Jeanne Shaheen said,
"Yes, I do continue to support the law. We're beginning to see some positive results."
How can Senator Shaheen say we're seeing positive results when 22,000 of our neighbors have already lost their health insurance? What's worse, the Boston Globe reports the state's only health insurance provider radically reduced the number of hospitals in their network, forcing some people to drive over an hour for lab work, even when there's a hospital within a few miles of their home. When pressed about lack of access, Shaheen said,
"There are some hospitals that are not covered, unfortunately, and I certainly hope that's going to change."
Jeanne Shaheen promised us we could keep our doctors and our healthcare coverage. Now she hopes we can get to a local hospital? Call Senator Shaheen at 603-647-7500. Tell her we need more than hope. We need leadership. Paid for by Citizens for a Strong New Hampshire.
Hi, this is Rich Gerard, host of Gerard at Large in the Morning, the Manchester area's only locally owned, locally operated, focused, and interested riveting radio show, heard live every Monday through Friday from 6 to 9 on 90.7 FM WLMW, New Hampshire Family Radio, and available 24/7 live or archived at GerardAtLarge.com. Be sure to tune in.
This is the Coalition of New Hampshire Taxpayers. We're located at 8 North Main in Concord, New Hampshire. This is the repository for all things conservative and municipal. So if you have a problem in your town, your school, your budget committee, the right to know law, and now at the top of our list is voter fraud. You have a tip for us, some information for us, you want to join or help us out, cnht.org.
Hi, this is Rich Gerard, host of Gerard at Large in the Morning. You're listening to GrokTALK.
3, 2, 1.
We'd like to welcome you to another edition of GrokTALK, brought to you by New Hampshire's leading conservative blog site, GraniteGrok.com. We are your feared extremist, right-wing, hard-charging, gun-toting, opinionated, outspoken, rabble-rousing, letter-writing, radio microphone stomping conservatives and rational libertarians. So get ready for more news and opinion you could only get from GraniteGrok.com.
GrokTALk.
Been an interesting week politically. Of course, we were just talking to Kimberly about the Balsams bailout. We had some issues with a national committeeman who got busted attending an AFP Action Fund fundraiser.
Although we have reason to believe the
Planned Parenthood.
The establishment probably wouldn't be too keen on establishment Republicans attending AFP meetings.
That's true. They probably wouldn't.
But that wasn't the point.
No, I've got AFP on the brain because I've got AFP in this segment. I've got AFP in that segment. Brent Gardner will be joining us to talk about the Ex-Im Bank. In the next segment, we've got Greg Moore, and we invited him in for this segment to talk about all things politics in New Hampshire, and there's tons of things to talk about, and we don't have to linger on anything in particular. But
I would hope that if folks want to show up at an AFP event, they wouldn't catch too much heck.
No.
From the right, from the left, I assume they probably.
I would think that if Kathy Sullivan, for example,
I'll invite her. I mean, it's funny.
Kathy donated to
Kathy
American
Sullivan really has a lot of fun commenting on my Twitter posts. And it's just kind of interesting, and she has it in a conversational tone, despite the fact that I've never met her in my life. Mm-hmm. I've never met Kathy Sullivan in my life, and yet she keeps this sort of conversational tone on Twitter. It's like, this is an interesting person.
Well, it's fine,
That's fine.
And that's the famous Shrill Kathy of the Shrill Kathy Chronicles, right?
That's right. And
I wouldn't know. I've never met her.
I have been kind of hot and cold on Twitter this week. This is the first year I've had allergies really affect me in a long time because I smoked for 10 years, but I haven't smoked for almost 20 now, and my allergies are just beginning to come back because I used to have them, but smoking had made them go away. And this year in particular, because the pollen is so bad, I was actually having issues, so I started taking a generic version of Claritin, which turned me into a walking zombie for 3 or 4 days till I stopped taking it. The first day, there was no symptoms, and I felt fine. The second day, I began to feel like I was in a haze. And the third day, I actually didn't go to work because I had no energy. I was completely exhausted. It just took me down like, bam! And I was like, oh, my God, I got to stop taking this stuff. So I did. Much better now. Yeah. But, so I know that people have been harassing me on the blog, and people have been harassing me on Twitter, and I haven't had a chance to respond to you, and I apologize for the delay.
Well, that's all right.
We will get to you.
I see that Skip took up his lightsaber, which he borrowed from Monday.
We've had plenty of backup. So.
Yeah, to joust with Brian Gould on your behalf.
Yes. And Brian, I just posted a notice, man. Get over it. So, Greg.
So I think it's interesting. I know the biggest news story for many people around here has been the Wells report and the Deflategate from a football perspective. But the biggest news politically, I think, happened on Thursday with the UK's election, where they had the election, and as Mike showed, and has a great picture, and apparently the map is turning into Maggie Simpson. That's pretty much what the UK map looks like.
So we have to hold this one up. You hold that. I'll switch the cameras. Yeah. So on the left, the UK electoral map, and on the right, Maggie Simpson. What the colours mean? First of all, you have to know in Britain that royal blue is the colour of Conservatives, as dressed by Maggie Thatcher. And you can see they pretty much wipe the map everywhere south of Hadrian's Wall,
which is England,
which is where the Romans tried to saw off Scotland from England because of the savages that lived up there.
My ancestors, by the way.
That's fine. The yellow part is the Scottish Nationalist Party. The Labour Party totally screwed up by appeasing the Scots, offering them all kinds of devolved powers and eventual separation and a referendum. The referendum failed, but the Scottish Nationalists succeeded. When the election came, the Labour Party...
They didn't secede, but they succeeded.
They certainly did. When the election came, the Labour Party was the first up against the wall, and all but 3 of them were kicked out of Scotland. That's what that big yellow blob at the top is. And the little red spots around... yeah.
That's awesome.
The little red blotches around,
the
which
little red blotches.
kind of a bit like Maggie's pacifier, are the remaining Labour dummies that clung to power.
And what is that a city or something?
Yeah.
Where?
With the little red pacifier.
Oh, it's
block.
London, obviously.
I meant in Maggie's head.
Yeah, probably. But the bigger red chunks are basically shipbuilding areas, failed industrial areas, a couple of big cities.
Birmingham, Liverpool, places like that.
Yes, sorry.
Shipbuilding.
Anyway, the reason is conservatism actually worked when it was tried, in spite of the fact that David Cameron was shackled to a bunch of leftist morons, or as I call them, commie clowns, called the Liberal...
Maroons?
Yeah,
Maroons,
called the Liberal Democrat Party. He managed to have a functioning government for almost 5 years, which is the maximum period allowed. And when he called the election, the voters rewarded him by freeing him from the shackle to the communist clowns and giving him an absolute majority.
And I think that there's some significance, because I think that there is some symmetry between the UK election just this week and the November election here. And that is, in both instances, the left really made a focus of their energies. Their primary focus had been income inequality. That was the driving force for the Democratic Party in last year's elections, going into the November elections, and that's what the Labour Party made as their banner argument for electing Labour.
They put up their fairly youthful leader, Ed Miliband, with his big eyebrows, and he made, as you say, income inequality his big thing. Essentially, he was the anti-Blair. Tony Blair, a bit like Bill Clinton.
But he had big eyebrows too.
Yeah, dragged the party to the middle, and as a result, they held on to power for a while, even if they were creeping socialists. And the Liberal Democrats, who were real socialists, splintered off and actually won some seats. With Ed Miliband, the party lurched to the left, made the Liberal Democrats irrelevant, basically. And then proceeded to lose anyway because people didn't want what they were selling.
Absolutely, and I think
what a maroon.
but I'll tell you this much: I think it's a positive sign for an economy and for a society when they reject the income inequality argument of using the government's coercive power to try to flatten outcomes, because it basically means that people still have aspirations and optimism that they're going to see a better day, and that opportunity exists for them. So I think it's actually a positive sign for our economy. It's a positive sign that people are optimistic about their economic futures, that they don't want to limit other people's ability to do well. Their focus is more or less on how do I get more opportunity. And I think we saw that in November here, and I think we saw it just this past week in the UK. And moreover, it'll be interesting to see if David Cameron's able to really do a lot more of the initiatives that he's been focusing on, as far as shrinking governments, getting the size of the government under control, really sort of engaging in some reforms that have been long overdue in their system, in terms of getting their welfare system under control. Which, if you think the welfare system in the U.S.
What are you looking at? Okay.
Just a minute. Let me.
If you think the welfare system in the U.S. is overly generous, you've got nothing on the UK's welfare system, and the Conservatives are looking to reform that. I think this is a good sign for where the Conservative leaders can actually get engaged in a process. And I mean, it's just still a much more liberal culture. They truly have national health care, a much more generous welfare state, But people are rebelling against that.
There's a tired but happy David Cameron at the door of number 10 yesterday morning with his wife. And so it was a pretty exciting thing. All of the pollsters and all of the pundits said that it was going to be a close election, a hung parliament. He'd have to form a coalition, if indeed he got to form a coalition at all, and it wasn't Ed Miliband who was forming a coalition with the Scottish Nationalists or something. It just didn't happen. The exit polls started to show that the Conservatives might actually win. Then they started to show that the Conservatives might actually have a majority. It turned out the Conservatives have a majority by at least 6 over the line,
right?
Which is not bad. And if they align with one of the teeny-weeny parties, they're still going to have a majority they can work with for the 5-year period.
It does remind me of the Monty Python skit about the silly party, and a very silly party, but they do have some of that in the UK.
You need to know a little something else about UK politics too, because you do have really silly politicians occasionally. For many, many years, we had this guy called Screaming Lord Such, who represented the Raving Loony Party. Now, but what you need to know is this. In Britain, it's not so much that you have to collect a petition with thousands and thousands of signatures on it to get your name on the ballot. You simply have to show up and put your name down. But you also have to put money down. And if you don't attract enough votes, I think it's 2%, it's a pretty low bar, you lose your deposit. And in this election, many, many of the Liberal Democrats, remember the ones that are further left than the Labour Party, lost their deposits. Hundreds of them. It was a wipeout. Wipeout.
So I think that's a good sign for where we are. I mean, I think that it's going to be another message to the folks at the UN who are looking at. I mean, the UN basically at this point has become a socialist income redistribution operation to try to get rich countries to try to give more money to poor countries. And because there are more poor countries than rich countries, they can always outvote the rich countries. And I think that that's an important lesson for them, that there's just not going to be countries that are going to be continuing to write checks to try to subsidize via the UN all these crazy socialist schemes. And I think that this has a lot of weight in terms of international politics. Obviously, Cameron's been pretty aggressive in opposing a lot of the terroristic things that are going on in terms of ISIS and things like that.
Well, in fact, he's looked like a world leader, especially in comparison to Obama. I know that's a pretty low bar to clear, but again, he's the guy that's looked like a strong man, who's made definitive statements, who's been the Americans' ally whenever needed as well, a bit like Blair was, but the thing is, he actually looks like he's
he's actually got a little more horsepower to start to increase his profile to try to get to where Merkel is in Germany, and I think that that's an interesting dynamic because European politics. There's still a little bit element of the great powers in there, and when the German and the British leaders are leading the way, I think that's historically a sign of the fact that they're going to be a little more engaged in the world stage.
Well, and the British and the Germans have something in common. Neither of them particularly wants to pay for the ne'er-do-wells in the southern tier, which means Greece and possibly Spain and
Absolutely,
Italy.
and I think this has significant implications in terms of, like you said, in terms of what the implications in the EU are for Greece, for Spain. I mean, the Brits were smart by not jumping on the euro, and I think that the Germans are still ruining that decision on their part. But from the perspective of what it means as far as these bailouts for these countries, they're going to have to find a way to get in line because if you're Greece, you need to know that now they have a new tax on cash withdrawals, so you can't actually, if you take money out of, so not only do you have to pay money when you get money, now you have to you get money from your employer. Now you have to pay money to the government when you take money out of the bank.
Well, just keep people from putting money in the bank.
Thanks to the zero or less interest rate policies of central banks around the world, and it seems to be a moving conspiracy, meaning that the Fed has more or less slimmed down its printing of dollars for the moment, but the Japanese are still going full tilt, and Mario Draghi at the European Central Bank is going full tilt now, basically as a compliment to what we're doing.
Draghi can't ignore what happened in the UK. He can't ignore it.
No, he can't. That's a key point. But what you're saying about cash penalty on withdrawals,
right?
The central banks don't want people to hold a lot of cash because they're trying to devalue it. They want everything to be electronic, so it's under their control.
Right.
And banks have started to charge you for parking cash, even if it's cash they can reuse, recycle, and loan out, the way they used to charge to store your gold. And to make matters worse, some of the big pension funds, especially in Switzerland, said, you know what, if you're going to charge me to keep my money, I'm going to take my money out. And they said, oh, no, you can't do that. What do you mean I can't take my money out of the bank? They actually
bank is like a prison now.
They imposed penalties on their best customers for withdrawing cash.
Well, and there's, that was an important issue. Another big issue that sort of under the radar based upon a lot of the other things that went along is, I don't know if you were aware of this, but this week Congress actually passed a budget. And you'd say, oh, what's the big deal, right? Well, that's the first time that's happened in 7 years.
All right, we're going to take a quick break. We'll come back and talk about that. Stay tuned.
Hi, this is Rich Gerard, host of Gerard at Large in the Morning, the Manchester area's only locally owned, locally operated, focused, and interested riveting radio show, heard live every Monday through Friday from 6 to 9 on 90.7 FM WLMW, New Hampshire Family Radio, and available 24/7 live or archived at GerardAtLarge.com. Be sure to tune in.
This is the Coalition of New Hampshire Taxpayers. We're located at 8 North Main in Concord, New Hampshire. This is a repository for all things conservative and municipal. So if you have a problem in your town, your school, your budget committee, the right to know law, and now, at the top of our list is voter fraud. You have a tip for us, some information for us, you want to join or help us out, cnht.org.
Welcome back. For our audio live stream listeners, if you weren't listening on Spreaker, you may now listen on the Grok homepage because the spell checker in the blog editor hung it up. So it wasn't flawless execution. Anyway, we want to continue the discussion.
But we're not Rush Limbaugh.
We're not Rush Limbaugh. We don't have... Well, see, here's the problem. If we had an engineer, if we had a social media person, if we had a transcriber, things would probably go a lot better. But we don't.
Could you imagine actually having someone go and sit through hours and hours of just rambling and just transcribing it all?
Well, if it pays well, sure.
Yeah, I guess when you're making the kind of money for each program that he does, you can afford to have it transcribed in real time.
You instantaneously have content for online. You just pull stuff and throw it up.
Absolutely.
It's awesome.
Great stuff.
I've been impressed by how fast every day it's getting faster and faster that the Limbaugh stuff appears online after each program. It used to be, late on in the afternoon, early evening, you'd start to see stuff. Now, virtually all the content's available within an hour or so after the program. It's
and
incredible.
That's no longer remarkable. But Congress passing a budget.
Congress passing a budget is
remarkable.
I know. I mean, we sit around and we say to ourselves, boy, geez, Congress passed a budget. That's kind of what you expect Congress to do, right? That's what they're supposed to do. I mean, in the legislature, they pass budgets, and in Congress, we expect the same. But we actually have a first budget through. It was passed in the House last week, but passed in the Senate this week. So we actually have a budget framework. It doesn't do a lot of the things that I think a lot of us had hoped for. We'd like to see some entitlement reform, which is obviously that's the fundamental long-term problem. Is a lot of the entitlements we have here, and this budget does not have that. But it does do something remarkable, something that's truly remarkable, something that no budget that President Obama has ever proposed has done. It actually balances. Wow. I know it sounds crazy. Congress, if this budget goes, now keep in mind they have this strange concept in Washington, even though they pass a budget every year. When they budget out 10 years. Now, I don't know about you, but I don't know how anyone can think they know what the economy is going to be like 10 years from now and how it's going to grow up and down.
I sure don't. I just, don't do a very good job of preparing for the worst, and I hope for the best, and somehow we muddle through.
Exactly.
And Congress does rather worse than that because they make assumptions that they can cut spending 8, 9, and 10 years out to balance what they're overspending this year. A burger today for pay you on Tuesday, it never works.
Right. I mean, that's not to say the budget balances anytime in the near future. That's going to take about 9 years before it balances based upon this budget, but at least it's actually having an aspirational goal of getting to the idea where we actually will balance the budget.
And I think that's plain wrong to begin with, that they're allowed to budget that far out. There's one thing in planning, long-term projects, long-term spending, in which there's going to be some. but it's a completely different thing to say, as long as we aspire to balance the budget over a 10-year period, that's okay, because then the next bunch will come in and they'll redo the budget,
right,
and it'll either not balance at all or it'll balance 10 years out from them.
But at least if you're putting a glide plane in to get there, you're coming to the conclusion that you're actually going to have to start making some cuts, or at the very least not increase the way that we've been increasing in the past. I think that one of the things that frustrates a lot of folks is when we hear, as Steve said, having a budget that actually goes up quite a bit, and people are coming before the State House because the State Senate had their public hearing on their budget on Tuesday of this week, and there were hundreds of people who came in and said what they always say, which is, "Don't cut my program. Don't cut my program." It's like the opposite of tax not thee, tax not me, tax that fellow behind the tree. It's just the opposite. It was funny because, as you know, I worked in the New Hampshire House, and when we actually had to pass our budget, it actually did cut. It actually cut 11% of spending, and it would be amazing. Each individual group who would get the services would come in and they'd say, "Look, I understand you have a tough job. I understand, but why are you singling out our group? Why us?" And it's just remarkable how they would say, "Oh, listen, just take care of us, and that's okay." And as if every other group wasn't saying exactly the same thing. But we saw that with hundreds of people making those comments in Concord, and I think that it's par for the course that a lot of these groups are going to come in and ask for more money, and they bring a lot of the people who can give a personal story about how they would be affected by it.
Well, and that's the way special interests work, and it's the way Democrats work. They always bring along the victim with the sob story to justify more of your money.
I understand, but the thing is several of the senators asked, "Well, how do you want to pay for it?" And they said, "Well, I don't know. That's your problem to worry about." In other words, don't ask me what taxes we should raise. And I think that's really a phenomenon of people who've never actually sat through a budget process. I've been now through 7 budgets. None of them have been uncomplicated. They're always complicated, but I think that right out of the gate, one of the smart things that leadership in the House and the Senate said is, now they had a little deviation for a while talking about the gas tax, but by and large they came out and they said, look, we are not going to raise taxes and fees. Bottom line is we're not raising taxes and fees, and we're going to put a budget together. And I think that instantaneously, right out of that, there was a lot of pushback, and that pushback came from a lot of the institutional left, but a lot of other organizations and special interests that subsist on taxpayer dollars, and I think there's an acknowledgement that they're going to have to be some tweaks and reductions in government across the line. You can't just continue to keep doing what you're doing. I do think, though, we often talk about it, but it never actually happens. They call it zero-based budgeting, but I don't even want to talk about it as zero-based budgeting. I like to say -1 budgeting, where you say, let's start with the idea that every program got -$1, $1 less than you got last year, and start and use that as a baseline. Or better yet, even better than that is, ask the question, how many of these programs do we even need to have around? Why do we need a state greenhouse? I mean, why does the state government need to have a greenhouse? These are the types of questions that a lot of people should be asking.
Somewhere to throw stones in, as people with glass houses. And all that.
Well, that's a good point. That's a good point. So,
all right.
But I think that for people paying attention to the state budget process, now's a good time to actually talk to your senator, particularly talk to your senator, not talk to the Senate, not do a blast email to all 24 senators. But for conservatives to say, first of all, to tell folks, listen, I fully endorse the idea of not raising taxes and fees, and I understand that there's going to have to be some reductions because they're hearing about it from all the people who are tied in with the specialists. I think it's important for them to hear from just average, everyday New Hampshire citizens who are sick and tired of paying higher and higher taxes in their lives to say, look, let's just try to make a common sense, fiscally responsible budget that doesn't raise taxes. In fact, we need to be looking at ways where we can actually start making some reductions in our business taxes that are the 3rd highest in the country, and maybe even some tax reform on businesses, so that it makes more sense to encourage more businesses to come to New Hampshire. We've got some of the highest energy rates, we've got some of the highest healthcare rates, some of the highest taxes, some of the highest unemployment fees, unemployment insurance taxes. Businesses are struggling, and they're not coming to New Hampshire. I think that one of the first things that we can use to point to that is actual business tax revenue is down between this year and last year. Now, if business taxes are a proxy on the health of the economy, which I think they are, because if businesses are doing well, that means that the economy as a whole is doing well. And business taxes are actually down this fiscal year from last fiscal year, 10 months into the year, which is a sign that we're having businesses that are struggling. And
the tax rate is too damn high.
Yeah,
because,
and
when revenue is down, it's because the taxes are too
absolutely,
high.
and business enterprise tax, which is even more concerning, which is actually a payroll tax. So if your business enterprise taxes are down, but your employment is going up, at least according to the Department of Employment Security, if your overall payrolls are going down and your employment's going up, that means that wages are dropping. And it's really not a good sign, because it means that either high wage earners, now maybe some of the high wage earners at the end of their career are retiring, and the new people coming in are getting paid at a lower wage. But it's not a good sign for our economy to see our BET tax dropping year over year at a time when people say that employment is increasing. It means that we're not taking as much money home,
or that people are leaving or being downsized out of high-paid jobs, and they're picking up burger flipping jobs because it's all they can get, and part-time jobs because it's all they can get, because it's all the employers dare provide under Obamacare.
And that's another great point, the impacts to the economy of Obamacare. But ultimately, it says, look, at the state level, we need to do something. We can't just sit here and do like Governor Hassan said, which is just keep raising business taxes, which has made no sense whatsoever. But we need to actually go in the other direction and start giving our businesses a helping hand to try to give them some competitive advantage and a reason not to move to Massachusetts, which, by the way, has lower business taxes than New Hampshire. Or, worse yet, go to a place like North Carolina, which made substantial business tax reductions last year, and this year is seeing a record surplus as a result of it.
I mean, the Democrats always think that that the money grows on trees, or that the golden goose will keep on laying even if you don't feed it. And they just don't understand that you have to encourage business. You have to make it worthwhile to do business here in order to be able to get taxes from business.
Our economy is too mobile, Mike. Our economy is too mobile. It's too easy to pick up, put all your stuff in a van. I mean, it's not like the days where it was all manufacturing, where you had too much of a sunk cost, so you're not going to up and move.
No, everything's mobile. I mean, I work in California. Well, not really. I work in my house, but I work for a California company.
Exactly.
I can be wherever I need to be. And
that California company could move to Nevada, could move to Arizona, could move to North Carolina, wherever it's better,
or to Texas. Mm-hmm. And the only reason it doesn't move to Texas is because even the Texan on staff prefers living in California. But Jerry Brown keeps trying to make it difficult for them to stay.
Right. So, I mean, we can't be like that. They say that just the number of jobs that have gone from California to Texas over the last 10 years exceeds the job creation in something like 42 other states, which is a staggering figure.
All right, we're going to take a really short break, and then we will be right back with Brent Gardner, the VP for Government Affairs with Americans for Prosperity, and we'll be right back. Stay tuned.
Senator Jeanne Shaheen said, if you like your current health plan, you can keep it. That's not true, Senator. 22,000 New Hampshire citizens have been kicked off their insurance plans. Hospitals in Rochester, Concord, and Portsmouth, they aren't allowed to provide care under the exchange. Senator, you were wrong in your comments. You should apologize for your misleading remarks. I'm calling Senator Shaheen at 750-3004 and telling her I want my doctor back. You should too.
Paid for by SaberPac.org, not authorized by any candidate or candidate committee.
We are struggling. Rising healthcare costs are part of the problem. Senator Jeanne Shaheen helped create this mess we're in. As a state senator, her bill chased 21 insurers out of our state. It reduced our choices, raised prices for New Hampshire families, and when Jeanne Shaheen supported Obamacare, it limited access to 10 of our 26 hospitals, reducing our choices again. Tell Jeanne Shaheen she's made healthcare worse. Few things are as important as finding the right doctor. And under Obamacare, that's harder than ever. Over a third of our hospitals no longer available. Our doctors, no longer covered. Fewer choices, longer drives. No state has been harder hit than us. And even after watching it impact New Hampshire, Congresswoman Ann Custer still supports it. Call Ann Custer. Tell her Obamacare isn't working for New Hampshire.
This is a coalition of New Hampshire taxpayers. We're located at 8 North Main in Concord, New Hampshire. This is the repository for all things conservative and municipal. So if you have a problem in your town, your school, your budget committee, the right to know law, and now, at the top of our list is voter fraud. You have a tip for us, some information for us, you want to join or help us out, cnht.org.
Three, two, one.
We'd like to welcome you to another edition of GrokTALK, brought to you by New Hampshire's leading conservative blog site, GraniteGrok.com. We are your feared extremist, right-wing, hard-charging, gun-toting, opinionated, outspoken, rabble-rousing, letter-writing, radio microphone stomping conservatives and rational libertarians. So get ready for more news and opinion you could only get from GraniteGrok.com.
GrokTALk. Nearly seamless execution. Oh, what the hell was that? See, that was nearly seamless execution. I don't even know what that was. All right, we were trying to get Brent on the phone. Mike's calling an alternate number. We'll see what happens. Hopefully we'll get him on in a couple minutes, but we have Greg here. He can help us fill in the meantime.
We'll talk a little bit about the Export-Import Bank.
That is going to be our topic.
Absolutely. I mean, it's as for those folks who don't follow what goes on in Washington and don't understand the myriad of little programs and operations they have down in the federal government. This is an operation called the Export-Import Bank. Its charter expires on June 30th, and the Export-Import Bank, its notion is it's about creating industries creating markets out of country for American companies at times, but it's also been helping foreign countries grow markets in their countries. Ultimately, it's benefited a very small number of companies. Boeing has been the primary beneficiary of the Export-Import Bank, which is why some of the folks in South Carolina who have a massive Boeing plant become very, very much in tune with it. I mean, Lindsey Graham actually came up and did a speech in favor of keeping the Export-Import Bank around. As obviously I mentioned, you've got a situation in South Carolina where Boeing has a huge plant. So I think that it's kept around. It is really a sort of a throwback to a time when people thought that they could create marketplaces, the government could create marketplaces for businesses, and that we couldn't have foreign trade unless the government blessed it and authorized it. It's a dinosaur. It takes, according to the CBO, over the next 10 years, it's going to cost $2 billion in taxpayer money for these loan guarantees. I mean, not dissimilar really from what we saw with the Balsams. And it really benefits a very small number of companies, to the detriment of a lot of other companies, and frankly to the detriment of the taxpayers. They said that 0.04% of XM funds actually go to help small businesses. 0.04%. So this is really a case of it's corporate welfare. And because it's about who's connected to whom, it really has a disturbing amount of crony capitalism involved in it.
God sorry, hang on. Stop talking. You can't hear yourself. There you go.
Okay. God helps those who know how to help themselves to our money.
Exactly. And fundamentally, it's time for this dinosaur to do like other dinosaurs and fall into the La Brea tar pit and get sucked into the tar there. But there's a lot of pressure among a lot of these vested companies who have spent tens of millions of dollars in lobbying and advertising to try to get congressmen and senators on board.
Why not just spend the money on lobbying and advertising overseas, and maybe just relax the laws a little bit against bribing foreign officials? Because as long as they don't bribe U.S. officials, frankly, I don't care.
Well, and it's particularly relevant because Congressman Ginta serves on the Financial Services Committee, which is the case in which that's the committee in which the export-import reauthorization would come. The chairman of that committee, Jeb Henseling from Texas, there's Texas again, is absolutely adamant in allowing EXIM to go away. A number of other people, Kevin McCarthy, who's the House Republican leader, as well as Paul Ryan, who's the Ways and Means chair, have said, look, it's time for EXIM to go away. And frankly, there's going to be a lot of pressure from a lot of special interests to try to keep who are getting a lot of financial benefit from the EXIM Bank. They want to keep the EXIM Bank around. They want to keep their ability to enter marketplaces where they frankly might not be competitive and not have to bear any risk. Everybody else does.
Why shouldn't they have to bear risk? I work for small companies. If you go into a foreign market, you bear the risk of doing business there. What the heck's up with that?
Well, they want the export-import says, listen, you know what? We don't want companies like Boeing to have to bear the risk of selling to China or someplace like that. So
let the Chinese build their own airplanes and crash.
I'm not sure about that.
Look. I've been in this country 30 years. When I came here 30 years ago, big corporations were taking EXIM Bank money to help seal deals in third world countries, Latin America, other places where, frankly, you wouldn't take the risk of extending credit unless somebody was helping you extend that credit and share the risk. And you know what? That meant that it wasn't particularly good
Sounds
business.
a lot like SB 30, don't it?
Yeah. I'm just saying,
it's a very close parallel, and that in fact is a lot of the problem. That these folks are, they're effectively taking our money to reduce their risk. And talking of Lindsey Graham and South Carolina, for example, and I'm going to sound a bit like I'm on the side of the unions here. Boeing moved into South Carolina, built a brand new expensive factory, and staffed it with non-union workers because it was a better bet, it was more efficient, they were going to make more money. And now they claim they need government help in the form of the EXIM Bank to do business. What's up with that picture?
Well, I mean, obviously Boeing's the biggest beneficiary of EXIM Bank, but a lot of the actual dollars end up going overseas. So the manufacturers, because when a lot of these companies go in, they have to a lot of the countries that are bringing them in, they want them to buy a certain number of parts and things like that. So it ends up growing the economy, not in the U.S., but it ends up growing the economy in many cases in that other country where our dollars are being shifted over there. And I don't want to sound to be protectionist, but capital will flow wherever it's best used, wherever the comparative advantage is the greatest. But should U.S. tax dollars be put on the hook for that? And the answer is no. And the answer is the EXIM Bank needs to go away. So Congressman Ginta is going to be part of the battles in the House, and Congressman Ginta serves on a panel where they have to make a decision about whether or not the EXIM Bank is going to live or die. Hopefully they'll make that decision that it's time for the EXIM Bank to go away, and ultimately I would expect. I would have my gut tells me that it's probably a 50-50 case right now either way as to whether or not the EXIM Bank lives after June 30th of this year.
Well, that would be a big step forward from where it's been in the past. I mean, every time it's come up before, it's been reauthorized. It's been reauthorized on a bipartisan basis, even by people that claim to be fiscal hawks every time you ask them.
It's $70 billion in lobbying goes a long way.
$70 billion.
I'm sorry, $70 million.
$70 million in lobbying.
$70 billion is I'm thinking Washington, so I immediately converted millions to billions.
Yeah, so $70 million in lobbying, and what's the total budget to the EXIM Bank again?
Well, I mean, as far as how much they leverage or how much they actually spend. I mean,
well, I guess
it's funny. You raise an interesting point because the EXIM is able to use basically Fannie and Freddie accounting, which. By the way, that's not a good thing.
No, it's not.
So the EXIM Bank says that they bring in $12 billion a year. I mean, $12 billion over 10 years because we do 10-year budgets we spoke about.
Yeah.
So they say we're going to bring in $12 billion to the economy over the course of the next 10 years. So the House asked CBO to use generally accepted accounting practices, what most companies would use. And they said, well, actually, no. Instead of bringing $12 billion in, it's going to cost taxpayers $2 billion. There's a little bit of a difference between bringing $12 billion in and costing $2 billion.
So just because there's a total of $12 billion of business done, which means money into the pockets of U.S. businesses in terms of equipment shipped to places that are probably not a good bet to pay for it, the $2 billion loss represents what we have to pay to cover those losses. And so that's actually the question I was going to ask you. It's not really how big the Ex-Im Bank is. It's basically how much do we have to top it up each year to cover those loan losses.
How much exposure? And the answer is, again, we do, for whatever reason, we go out 10 years. CBO looks out 10 years, and the answer is $2 billion. So on average, you figure about $200 million a year.
Which is, relatively speaking, a pittance. But if the risk is so low, why aren't the regular banks doing it?
Exactly.
After all, the regular banks are overflowing with cash thanks to the printing of the Fed.
Right. So the usefulness of the Ex-Im Bank is de minimis. The number of companies who would be impacted by it is very small, and they're very well connected, and they spend a fortune keeping this golden goose around. So certainly, I know that the folks in our office, nationally, in our national policy shop, and we hear about it a little bit because. We do have to do a lot of educating people and helping them understand what exactly the Ex-Im Bank is, because as it turns out, people don't actually know all the programs and services within the federal government.
How could you?
I know, it's shocking, and so we certainly would encourage people to reach out to Congressman Gant to let them know, look, it's time for this dinosaur to go away. It's just time for it to end. It's time for people to start moving to having a system where you're not whether it's the Balsams, whether it's Ex-Im, where if someone has a good idea and it's worthwhile, there should be some bank out there who would be willing to fund it.
Well, absolutely. And
or some guy, some wealthy entrepreneur,
Exactly.
some venture capitalist. We have those in the state of New Hampshire.
Yes, we do. In fact, we have one particularly interesting one at the Dartmouth College. Gregory Slayton is also a venture capitalist, and he helps small companies get their businesses going. So we have venture capitalists here. We have them all over the country. We have tons of them in Silicon Valley. We got them. Just about every state. And the thing is this, as long as we have bad monetary policies, printing excess money, the banks have cash on their books that they don't know what to do with. There's no way you can get a high rate.
They can't give it to small businesses because of
There's no way
policy.
There's no way you can get a high rate of interest just investing it. So, the logical thing for these banks to be doing is to invest in startups, to invest in deals overseas, to underwrite things, if in fact there's money to be made. Hang on.
He's going to do that. Let me turn your mic off. That's my mic. There we go. Hopefully, we'll have our guest. Hang on a second. We're going to hopefully. Is this him? Please. Excellent. Very good. We just had a great conversation about the Ex-Im Bank. We're going to have another one. So, I'm going to go to a quick break, and we'll bring him back on right after this. So hang on a second.
Hi, this is Rich Gerard, host of Gerard at Large in the Morning, the Manchester area's only locally owned, locally operated, focused, and interested riveting radio show, heard live every Monday through Friday from 6 to 9 on 90.7 FM WLMW New Hampshire Family Radio, and available 24/7 live or archived at GerardAtLarge.com. Be sure to tune in.
This is a coalition of New Hampshire taxpayers. We're located at 8 North Main in Concord, New Hampshire. This is a repository for all things conservative and municipal. So if you have a problem in your town, your school, your budget committee, the right to know law, and now the top of our list is voter fraud. You have a tip for us, some information for us, you want to join or help us out, cnht.org.
All right. GrokTALK continues. If you missed any portion of the program, you can check it out later, pre-recorded, podcasted at granitegrok.com. We're also on Spreaker, iTunes, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, TuneIn. You can see us on YouTube at Granite Grok's page. You can see us on YouTube on my YouTube page.
and you can see it live on Ustream. But there again, you're probably watching us right
or
now.
You can listen live on Spreaker as we speak to you now. And I'm going to turn the music down because our guest, thank you, is on the phone. Brent Gardner from AFP, Vice President Government Affairs. Welcome to the show, sir.
Glad to be here.
Thanks. Glad we could get you on. Sometimes these phone things happen. It's just part of the program. But we've got Greg Moore, who's the state director here in New Hampshire, and he's been filling in on the Ex-Im Bank. I'm not sure how much we covered and what you might revisit, but why don't we just you start, ask a question.
Yeah, Brent, it was good. It was good to fill in for you, but I couldn't fill your shoes. We spent a little time talking about the Ex-Im and reauthorization and the central role that Congressman Ginta plays in Ex-Im here in New Hampshire, and I figured that'd be a good lead-in for you to talk about some of the details about Ex-Im and where it stands in Congress right now.
Sure. Well, obviously, this has been a major issue. It's very important to our organization, and I think really, if we kind of go back about a year now, if you'd asked anyone what Ex-Im Bank was this time last year, there are very few folks that would have known what it was. This is one of those D.C. institutions that have always been rubber-stamped and renewed, and it's kind of a relic of the 1930s. So it's been around a really long time. People were just used to it being there. But this is a bank that it's a government institution really that has become a symbol over and above some of the smaller reasons why we oppose Ex-Im, but it's become a symbol for corruption, crony capitalism, corporate welfare, and ultimately lack of transparency. So about a little over a year ago, AFP led a coalition to try and start putting some light on the bank. And one of the things that we found is the more and more that folks found out about the bank, what it was, how it worked, and some of the details of the corruption allegations, the convictions, and the issues that exist, people really didn't want this thing. And they saw it as exactly what's wrong with Washington.
And so, you say convictions, literally?
Oh, literally, yeah. There was just there was a plea about 2 weeks ago now of a guy who was accepting bribes to put favorable bank conditions out there for loans. So literally convictions. And we heard during the hearing that there are additional indictments forthcoming. And this has long been a way for politically connected folks to be able to provide financing, loans, loan guarantees to other politically connected folks. And that's just that's been the quiet history of the bank. Now it's not so quiet as more and more people have found out about it. And certainly for those of us who have been suffering under a lagging economy, who've been faced with watching some of the services that people like from government, have to be pick and choose because those dollars are tighter and tighter. I think looking at things like this, when you have a bank that loans, the top 10 recipients of Ex-Im dollars receive 90% of the dollars. And these are large corporations. These are like Boeing and Caterpillar and others. So these are not folks that have trouble getting traditional financing. And a number of them have even commented on the fact that they would have no trouble getting traditional financing were Ex-Im to go away. So, ultimately this is one of those things where as more and more people find out about it, as more and more people find out that this is a U.S. institution that gives government-backed loans, not just to foreign countries, but to foreign countries' Ex-Im banks, the flag carrier airlines, meaning that it's a government-owned entity of a foreign country. The more they find out their tax dollars are going to that, I think the more folks have really gotten involved. And in particular, over about the last 3 or 4 months, folks have really gotten active in contacting their legislators. After last year, when we had the shortest reauthorization ever, shortened it right up until June 30th is when the bank's current charter is set to expire, folks have been really reaching out. They've been getting active at the grassroots level. They've been trying to find ways to impart on their legislators how important it is to take something like this, which should be pretty simple, especially if you're someone that espouses the center-right belief structure, that, we should be able to get rid of something that stands as such a perfect symbol of all of the things that this bank emulates. So hopefully, over the next month, we're going to continue to work with our activists, to work with folks in the media to make sure to get the word out on this. But there's recently been a joint hearing between the Financial Services Committee and the Oversight Committee. And I think a lot more kept coming to light. I think there's additional hearings forthcoming, and I think as we start to hear from legislators who previously supported the bank, folks like Governor Perry and Trey Gowdy actually mentioned that, in the past he's felt a strong sense to support the bank, but because of issues with transparency and issues of corruption, it brings it into question. I think the more legislators that see this start to happen, the better the chance we have to see this thing disappear.
That's really interesting, Brent. So the question that occurred to me is, I had no idea it went all the way back to FDR and all the agencies he created in the 30s. So that begs the question, has it in fact been a boondoggle the entire time, and has it in fact been a money-losing entity the entire time, or was there ever a time when it paid money back to the taxpayers?
Boy, that's an absolutely fantastic question. And the truth of the matter is, even the people with the best possible information couldn't tell you truthfully what it does. And here's why. The bank's own IG said that the accounting practices of the bank are so terrible that if they were to try and estimate whether it was up or down, they wouldn't know how deep down the rabbit hole it goes. But I can tell you this. If a bank is profitable, and a bank is making money, a bank then has more money to loan. They don't have to come back to the American people then and say, we need you to increase the authorization for the borrowing limit to be able to keep this bank cash positive. So the bank proponents claim that it's cash positive. But based on the accounting rules of the bank, its own IG says that they can't tell whether or not that's true. They don't use fair value accounting. And ultimately, if this was such a success, if this was such a profitable venture, don't you think the free market would have stepped in and found a way to be able to translate that into profit for shareholders and for investors? So I think a lot of those things are called into question. But, again, it's tough to tell because the bank itself is so terrible with its own record keeping and its own accounting methods.
Yeah, so it makes you wonder whether the issue is that the accounting is bad in the first place because the output is more of a slush fund, or whether, in fact, the money that the taxpayer is putting in is the slush fund, and the bank maybe models along and sort of just doesn't lose too much. But
sure, and ultimately,
I'm more inclined to think, the former, the whole thing's a damn slush fund, and every so often they lose track of where they're at and have to come back for more.
Well, and ultimately, it's a great trick to get folks like you and I to ask this question. Because the real question is, do we think the U.S. government should be in the position of owning a business that profits? Do we think that the government should be involved in something that we acknowledge throughout the rest of the framework of our entire free market economy, that profit motive businesses should be done by private industry, and that the public government should be able to take as little from the people as possible and ultimately allow them to engage in the economic forces that are natural, rather than having artificial intervention by a government agency?
And I think, Brent, what you're saying is it just goes to what Ronald Reagan said, which is if you can find it in the yellow pages, government shouldn't be doing it.
I think that's a good line.
And I think the same kind of approach, which is, if this is in fact a potentially profitable line of business, and the government should not be in it, and the government should be taking a small amount of tax off the top, and it would then be measurably cash positive for the taxpayer instead of immeasurably cash negative as the current operation is. Steve, sorry.
Oh, that's okay. I was going to say, you kind of alluded to legislators being a little bit more receptive. Are they being more receptive? Where do you think this is going? And I guess, really, what can the grassroots do to help?
Well, it's kind of tough to tell. I think there's a lot of folks who are clearly out there on the issue. The chairman of the committee, Jeb Henserling, has been a great leader. Congressman Mick Mulvaney has been a great leader. Congressman McCarthy has come out and said that he wants to see the bank go, as well as Congressman Scalise. So the list continues to grow day by day. I mean, we just saw this week a great article by Governor Perry that his opinion has changed on the bank. I think the truth won't be known until June 30th, but ultimately, as long as we continue to head in the right direction, I think we have a strong possibility. One of the great things about this is Washington has to do what they're best at to make this bank go away, which is do nothing. Ultimately, this bank's charter expires on June 30th, and assuming Congress takes no action to try and extend it, the bank will begin wind down and ending service at that point. So certainly, what can the grassroots do? The grassroots can continue to do what they've done thus far, reaching out to legislators. But the other thing they can do is something they may not have done, which is tell a friend. The only thing better than contacting a legislator yourself is doing that and getting somebody else to do the same thing. And that nature of grassroots building a consensus behind an issue that something is bad is what led to the ending of earmarks and many other things throughout political history. So I think ultimately, the more and more light we can shed on this, the more and more people talk about this bank as a symbol of what we need to do to really kind of get started when it comes to reforming Washington. I think getting folks involved is certainly the first step, and then ultimately talking about this issue is more than just XM, but the first step in a number of reforms that are necessary to get government back to its right place in society. So, I think.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, you're good. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, now, assuming Congress does nothing, which would be a surprise, do we know what President Obama's position is on it, and is there any evidence that he might use his phone and pen if Congress does nothing?
Well, it's interesting. It depends on which President Obama you're talking about, because candidate Obama was quite outspoken on the fact that the bank was crony capitalism, that it was corporate welfare. But President Obama has since decided that the bank is a good thing. And, as he becomes more and more politically connected to a bank that is really pretty much about political connections, I'm shocked to find that his position has changed. And he's now a strong believer in corporate welfare and, providing these types of loans. So I think ultimately the president has a strong position on this. I'm not certain where it falls within his grander scheme. I've had trouble many times understanding where this president comes from. So I think ultimately whether or not he'd use the pen and the phone, I don't know. He has not yet indicated that, but I think he feels as though the strength of Democrats in Congress being able to join with Republicans who are putting big business over free markets puts him in what he probably feels is a pretty comfortable situation. But ultimately, I'm hopeful. I do think that we've seen a lot of cues here in recent weeks that a lot of folks in Congress have started to recognize the bank for what it is. They realize that people know about this. I'm sure that they assume, and rightfully so, that groups, organizations, and ultimately voters will hold them accountable for where they stand on putting their dollars. Hopefully, I think with the time left, there is opportunity to help a lot of folks come home to the positions that they run on, to the comments that they make in regards to these issues, and to ultimately take a symbol of all of those things which they run so hard against, to take that stand, let this bank go away, and show us that they're ready to get out there and dig in and get some of the reform done that we need here in Washington.
That's wonderful. So, Brent, just let people know how they can get a hold of you. AFPHQ.org, is that correct?
No, actually, and for this issue in particular, we have a website, www.break-the-bank.org. That's where I'd recommend folks to go to work on this issue. Again, that's break-the-bank.org, where they can learn more information about this, find out about the activities that we're engaged in, sign up to get involved, and actually send a message to their legislators and let them know that they've had enough and it's time to break the bank. So that's the best way to get a hold of us. And also, of course, Greg, you know that our New Hampshire state chapter is very active, and they have activities, so they can get involved locally up there as well. But ultimately, the biggest thing is to not just hear the words that we've talked about today, but ultimately to take those words, take an action, and move this issue forward.
All right, absolutely. Thank you, Brent. And just want to let people know they can come to the AFP New Hampshire website as well and get information about the XM Bank.
All right, Brent, thanks. We got to go. We'll see you. Have a great weekend.
Guys.
Bye-bye. All right, next segment, Michelle Lavelle on education, and then it's open season on the WTF of the week. We'll be right back.
New Hampshire is famous for scenic drives, but they're tough to enjoy when you're on your way to the doctor. Because Obamacare limits your choices, some will have to drive more than an hour to see a doctor. What's health insurance worth if care isn't there when you need it? Jean Shaheen voted for Obamacare, putting your doctors and hospitals further out of reach. Tell Senator Shaheen Obamacare is not working for New Hampshire.
Jean Shaheen and her allies are making false claims about her record on veterans. The truth? Shaheen refused to meet with veterans pushing for reform. She wasn't on the committee that wrote the reform legislation and refused to co-sponsor important VA reforms in the VA Management Accountability Act until after the VA scandal broke. When our veterans needed her, Jean Shaheen was AWOL. Tell Jean Shaheen to stop distorting the truth and fix the VA.
Hi, this is Rich Gerard, host of Gerard at Large in the Morning, the Manchester area's only locally owned, locally operated, focused, and interested riveting radio show, heard live every Monday through Friday from 6 to 9 on 90.7 FM WLMW, New Hampshire Family Radio, and available 24/7 live or archived at gerardatlarge.com. Be sure to tune in.
This is the Coalition of New Hampshire Taxpayers. We're located at 8 North Main in Concord, New Hampshire. This is the repository for all things conservative and municipal. So if you have a problem in your town, your school, your budget committee, the right to know law, and now at the top of our list is voter fraud. You have a tip for us, some information for us, you want to join or help us out, cnht.org.
GrokTALK. 3, 2, 1.
We'd like to welcome you to another edition of GrokTALK, brought to you by New Hampshire's leading conservative blog site, GraniteGrok.com. We are your feared extremist, right-wing, hard-charging, gun-toting, opinionated, outspoken, rabble-rousing, letter-writing, radio microphone stomping conservatives and rational libertarians. So get ready for more news and opinion you could only get from GraniteGrok.com.
GrokTALK.
Welcome back to GrokTALk. Thank you so
And
much.
you can tell when we switch from Memorex to live because he stops fooling around with the headset.
I was having fun. Come on. Yeah, all right. Anyway, you totally derailed my train of entry here. So, let me turn that on. Sorry. Go ahead.
I want to know how many of the listeners still remember the Memorex commercials.
Oh, yeah. No kidding. I actually wrote a post for watchdog.org yesterday on fuel efficiency for hybrid and electric vehicles, and I used the Shell Answer Man. I referenced the Shell Answer Man and something else that was like 30 or 40 years old, and I like to throw that stuff in there, just because it's fun, and I know what it means, and everybody else is like, the Shell Answer Man, what the heck is that? Hi, Michelle. How you doing?
Great. How are you today,
Great.
Steve?
Welcome to our squirrels. We wanted to talk about some education bills. A lot of education bills this year in the House and the Senate, but there's a couple coming up. Is that correct?
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
Oh, yeah.
so-
There's some biggies, the biggest ones of the year. And seriously, for all your listeners, these are the ones that should really motivate you to make those phone calls and emails. This is the week to do it.
All right. Let's talk about them.
Awesome. The two big ones that should really be the focus of the issues for this week are HB 323, which is about the statewide assessments. It is essentially a bill that would massively change what's happening right now with regards to the over-testing, and it's just more testing. It's worse and worse and worse. This is a bill we need to kill. It further puts Common Core into our state statutes, so it'd be even harder to parse it out and get it out of our schools. It doesn't respect parents' rights, and it even gives a blank check kind of authority to our state Department of Education to come up with who can choose alternative assessments and who can't, and there would be no checks and balances as to how those criteria and approval processes would be set up. So it's really an insidious bill. It needs to get killed.
It's HB 323, and they're voting on it Wednesday?
Thursday.
It's in the Senate. It's in the Senate Thursday, okay.
Thursday morning. Now, the Senate usually caucuses with their other members of the party on Wednesday afternoons. So to be most effective, those calls and emails need to be done on Monday and Tuesday before they head in. Because Wednesday morning, they're already going about their business and going to be making their decisions that day.
Okay, and we have Greg Moore with us from AFP, and he had a question, so I'm just going to swing the camera around.
So I think that on this week anyway, the biggest education news was the news yesterday that Governor vetoed SB 101, which is the Common Core legislation.
Right.
Do you think that there's any chance that the Senate will? I mean, obviously it was passed over a voice vote in the Senate. Do you think there's any chance that the Senate could sustain a veto?
No. That's not what we're hearing.
Okay, sustain a veto, or do you think they will sustain the veto?
I think the veto will stand in the Senate. We don't have enough of people who realize how important that legislation was. The House got it, the Senate didn't.
Right.
That's a pretty common refrain lately.
Yeah.
Yeah, the issue there was from the governor's office, she was saying that it wasn't necessary to have that in the statute. What we're seeing from district to district to district across the whole state is that although the state Department of Education and Board of Education say the Common Core is optional, they're saying different things to the superintendents and to the school boards. They are telling them that unless they adopt Common Core and do well on all these tests, they risk federal funding. So there's this threat that the districts have been operating under, that if they don't follow that Common Core stuff, they risk funding, which in fact they do not. And that lie is perpetuated again and again and again. That's also why we need HB 323, is to break that lie. We can't have that further ingrained in our statute. But that's what SB 101 was all about, was getting that clarification that no, Common Core is optional, and making it ultra clear, because what the DOE says in testimony, oh, sure, it's optional, blah, blah, it is not what they say and threaten to the districts.
Okay, what else we got?
The other biggie is HB 603. That's, again, in the Senate. They vote Thursday, but we need to contact them Monday and Tuesday. This is a bill that makes parents' rights crystal clear. It is a very simple bill. We need to support it. It expressly says parents have an opt-out on these statewide assessments. Repeatedly, even last Monday, the Commissioner of Education, Dr. Virginia Berry, said parents do not have opt-out. And yet, parents always have, even back in the NECAP exams a few years ago. And so this explicitly would say parents can opt out. They can direct their children's education. That is consistent with federal law, is consistent with Supreme Court of the United States rulings, and so we need this written into law. Unfortunately, we have to overturn an inexpedient to legislate recommendation coming out of committee. It was a 3-2 vote, so you can guess who that swing vote was, I'm sure. Senator Nancy Stiles.
Thank you.
But 603 is one that we want to support because parents do have that right to direct their children's education, and we need that expressly written in the statute.
Okay, that's great, Michelle. So, as well as threats at the state level, isn't it also true that Arnie Duncan and the Education Department have been threatening the states to say if too many students fail to take or refuse to take the Common Core Smarter Balanced Assessments, that the feds will pull funding? And do we care?
Well, that is their threat. And see, that underscores why we needed SB 101. But you're right that Arnie Duncan from the USDOE does say that. He threatens that. But the issue is the No Child Left Behind waivers and New Hampshire is one of the waiver states. We just issued another application at the end of March. Waivers protect those states from the penalties of the No Child Left Behind Act. We still have the accountability requirements, but those penalties are mute. That we do not risk funding. Not a single state or school district that has had less than 95% participation has had state fund or had federal funding pulled. So it's an empty threat. It's used to intimidate and bully states, districts, and parents.
Lovely. We love
Yeah,
that.
I mean, you know, they talk about anti-bullying in schools, but look who's doing the bullying.
Oh, and we see it with everything. With
as long as
lunches
it's institutionalized.
Oh,
it's
that's
okay.
true. That's true. That's true. The right people are doing it, right?
Yeah. They're threatening our school districts. Say, do what we want. They're no better than the mafia, really. It's a protection racket. They're trying to threaten and intimidate our school districts and just saying, doing what they want. And here's the money. They're paying. It's like a big payoff. Our kids' education is getting sold out to the feds.
And people wonder why the number of homeschooled kids keeps growing dramatically every year.
Well, honestly, Common Core is only more and more ingrained. Now they call it College and Career Readiness Standards. They just changed the name to try to, it's a shell game.
Well, they ruined the name Common Core, so they needed to come up with another one. It's kind of like global warming when there's no global warming happening.
Climate disruption.
Yes, it's exactly what it is. They just changed the title, but readiness standards, college and career readiness standards, it's all the same thing. It's all Common Core.
Well, this career readiness stuff is a crock. Not only is it poor quality education, not only does it fail to teach or misteach our history, but worst of all, it brings kids out of school at the age 18 with the kind of education that in many Western countries they used to leave school at 16 and enter the workforce. Now, with all this fancy nomenclature and huge amounts of money, they're barely ready to enter the workforce at 18 and certainly not ready to go to college.
They're in school longer. It's costing taxpayers more money, and the quality of education has got worse. Both the Friedman Foundation and Cato have done extensive longitudinal studies that show exactly that. And the money does not go to the classrooms. It goes to non-teaching administrative staff. They call it bloat, educational bloat. And that's exactly what it is. It's not serving our children well at all. It's quite a disservice.
Yeah.
And when you think of that kids have one shot, each individual child has one chance at their K through 12 education, it scars them for life. It really sets them behind. And I mean, frankly, I worry about each and every kid.
It's funny. You look at the freshman curriculum for a lot of public universities, and you'll see something that looks remarkably like what a lot of older folks would have called junior and senior year of high school.
Mm-hmm.
Indeed. The colleges have talked about how much remediation they need to provide to incoming freshmen. And it is exactly why. It's because our K through 12 schools are not preparing them well.
I can't help but think that's deliberate because, the way the government is funneling taxpayer-backed money into the university systems, and the university systems have to spend more and more time educating children about things that they should have known when they got there. It really just says, it used to be a 4-year education, now it's a 6-year education. You go to a 2-year school, it's a 3-year school. What you're really doing is you're padding the monopoly with taxpayer-backed money, and it seems all deliberate to me.
Right, and Obama's offering free community college to basically have more federal government money in that game. Our grandson is taking 2 years of community college as a cheap way to start his college education because he knows he needs to get remediated in some subjects, which, although he's interested, the teaching standards are so poor and the teachers are so unprofessional that he cannot learn. He wants to do advanced mathematics. He gets derision. He gets talked down to, and he most definitely does not get taught. And he's going to have to do this in community college.
I feel bad for the fabulous teachers that went into that profession with all the right intentions and motives. I mean, I've talked to teachers across our state where they're trying to do the right thing, but their hands are tied. They risk their jobs if they speak out. In fact, a new Ipswich teacher who passed out opt-out information to to the classroom and to parents ended up getting suspended. So there truly is this threat that if you speak out, if you say a bad thing about what they're doing or implementing, or tell parents about their rights to direct their kids' education, you're on the chopping block. And we need to be able to give them cover, I think, honestly, so that they can speak out and tell us what's happening in the classroom and bring back their profession and their expertise and knowledge to the classroom.
And I think it's absolutely true that when you look at education as a whole, the teachers have had such a tough job to be a good teacher because of all the burdens, all the obstacles that are placed in their way by further encroaching federal and state regulations, and this is the kingpin of all those regulations.
It is, and will either of these two big bills that I talked to you about, HB 323 or HB 603, be the magic answer here? No, but we've got to be able to start chipping away at it. So we've got to stop putting college and career readiness standards or Common Core or whatever name they come up with the next time. We've got to stop putting those into our statutes because it only further ingrains it into New Hampshire.
All right, Michelle,
So-
we've run to the end of the segment. HB 603 and
HB 603 is the good one to support. HB 323 is the one to kill.
All right, and I think that the lesson that we really need to take away from this, because I bet Governor Hassan will probably veto anything good that comes to her desk anyway, is that we need a Republican governor. So let's let's think about that. Thanks again, Michelle, for joining us. We're going to take a break. We'll be right back with Jane Cormier. Stay tuned.
Thanks.
This is the Coalition of New Hampshire Taxpayers. We're located at 8 North Main in Concord, New Hampshire. This is a repository for all things conservative and municipal. So if you have a problem in your town, your school, your budget committee, the right to know law, and now the top of our list is voter fraud. You have a tip for us, some information for us, you want to join or help us out, cnht.org.
Hi, this is Rich Gerard, host of Gerard at Large in the Morning, the Manchester area's only locally owned, locally operated, focused, and interested riveting radio show, heard live every Monday through Friday from 6 to 9 on 90.7 FM WLMW, New Hampshire Family Radio, and available 24/7 live or archived at gerardatlarge.com. Be sure to tune in.
Yeehaw! Welcome back to GrokTALK.
I caught you just right that time.
Jane, can you test your mic, please?
Test.
Test.
Hello.
Okay, we got the right one. Mm-hmm. All these extra headsets we have now, thanks to the generous donations of many people, allow us to have more people talking in more headsets, but I don't know which ones are which anymore once I get past you. So, Jane, welcome back.
Thank you.
Busy week?
Tremendously.
So, what did you want to share? Jane Cormier is the president of New Hampshire Right to Life.
Yes. Well, we have some legislation coming into the Senate on Thursday, and there are some, we have the abortion buffer zone repeal that we're hoping will pass because it's unconstitutional.
Right, and that's coming back up. They were going to vote on it last Thursday.
Right, special ordered it.
They special ordered it to the following week. I was told because Regina Birdsall was on vacation and they wanted her
She
there
requested,
for the vote.
absolutely.
Okay.
So a lot of the good education bills that the gallery was filled to support were kind of disappointed, and we had some lifers up there as well because we have HB 560, which is coming up, which is the fetal homicide bill for 8 weeks. It's a fair, just bill for families that suffer through the horror of a fetal homicide, giving the baby a legal entity to be able to get some justice at the end of the day. And that has passed the House, and Senate Bill 40, here's the controversy, came up with some language that had a few words in it that made it a virtual impossible barrier to get any legal justice, extrauterine survival viability, which is blah, 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 blah. And because there is nothing connected to that, the families that would seek justice for fetal homicide would have to sit in a courtroom while the attorneys batter each other and the families about what viability extrauterine could the baby have lived. It would be better to have no bill or law at all than to have that one. That's how bad that language is. Americans United for Life has come out with 2 letters, I believe, that have been sent to the legislature saying, do not do the unamended version. So the SB 40 went into the House a couple of weeks ago, and the House amended that bill to be pretty much the same as the Bill 560, which is 8 weeks viability, or 8 weeks, as far as a definition of when life would be legally.
Execution would have occurred at the hands of some
Yes.
horrible other individual, unintentionally or
Criminal.
otherwise.
Very
criminal.
important.
That's the
right,
word.
criminal. And abortion is explicitly exempted in both of these bills, so that there's no abortion, speak in this bill. This is justice for families that have lost a wanted member of their family that lost it through a criminal act. So now this amended bill of SB 40 has gone back to the Senate. Should be this Thursday that we hear it, and there's all kinds of controversy. I'm hearing all kinds of crazy things, and basically what I'm hearing is that the House should not have amended SB 40 because now the senators supposedly will kill the bill. And I keep trying to get a reason why, and I keep hearing just the same speak. Should not have amended SB 40. Well, you know what? Who cares about the political entity anymore?
It's a bicameral system. They have a right to amend it. You have a right to oppose the amended version.
Yes.
You have a right to amend the amended version.
It's political.
It is.
It's a political thing on who can jump on the bandwagon and call themselves pro-life. But you know what? If you call yourself pro-life with a really bad bill, then you should be called to the table, because that's hypocrisy in its extreme
I'm always trying to
form.
come up with new and interesting ways to approach this problem. And the other day it occurred to me, is there life before conception?
I don't think so.
No. Okay, so what happens after? Just a thought.
Oh, okay. New Hampshire right to life has always been, conception to natural death, right? Always. 1974 to today, that's our one message. That's what we stand by. But this bill, we're very, very active with this, and we've got some people that will be coming up next week and speaking for doing the right thing and passing either HB 560, which will be coming up. Pass it. Republican senators, that is a large plank in your platform to support life.
And we've been talking about that a lot this week, in case you missed it.
Yes, we have. And, hopefully politics won't get into the way and call the unamended SB 40 the real fetal homicide bill, because it isn't. And if it does get killed, we will come back stronger next session and try again. There's nothing... not, quote, winning isn't the worst thing that can happen. Sometimes you have to lose before you can win.
Right, and then there's the awareness question. People hadn't really thought about it. I think there's a lot of people that didn't think, oh, geez, what if that mom wanted that baby and she was in a car accident and the baby was killed?
Indeed. Well, 2 sessions, it died in the House, right? I mean, last session when I was a sitting rep, we fought hard Leon Rideout's bill, Griffin's Law, same bill, and it didn't pass the House. Well, now it's passed the House not once but twice. So, yes, education did occur.
Yeah, and this isn't the most conservative
Certainly.
pro-life house we've had. So
absolutely.
That's an interesting point. All right, any more legislation, or is that pretty much it till the end
pretty
of the
much
session?
Pretty much it for the big ones for us right now, yeah.
Okay, so we can move on to the last part of our weekly traditional Whiskey Tango Foxtrot. We kind of already had somebody penned in there. We thought that was probably the winner. A Republican National Committeeman, Steve Dupree, was spotted and admitted attending a Planned Parenthood Action Fund event, claiming all kinds of things, none of which is relevant. He's been pro-abortion for at least 43 years, says that he supports both pro-life and pro-abortion people, which still doesn't matter because he still supports death in the womb. And he went to this event. He claims he didn't know exactly what it was going to be about. It turned out to be an event to raise money to basically defeat Kelly Ayotte and to defeat Republicans. And the entire purpose of an RNC committeeman is really to represent the Republican values of his state at the National Committee. Our platform is pro-life, and he clearly has failed that in enough of a way publicly that makes his ability to represent that interest and puts it in question. So I don't know if we have anything better. Obviously, there's lots of things that happened. The Garland, Texas shooting, which was a non-event because a guy, a traffic cop with a gun, killed both of the terrorists moments after they stepped from their vehicle and started firing. Okay,
I personally like the White House. The White House described that as an attempted terrorist attack. The security guard who got shot in the foot probably doesn't. Probably feels a little differently about being an attempted terrorist attack.
And the cop that got them was amazing as a hero. I mean, these guys were wearing at least lightweight armor. They were, and they were 2 of them. They were moving. And he managed to get both of them with just a handgun.
That's right. 2 shots, 1 each.
And that's for those of you who aren't familiar and think that TV gun handling is the magic of all gun handling. Hitting a target stationary with a handgun at any distance is not the easiest thing in the world unless you practice. And then even when you do that, you're still shooting at a moving target, which makes it even harder.
Which is why when you hear when these occasional tragedies occur where they shoot the wrong person, like that guy running from his car, there were bullets everywhere. Was it 9, 11 bullets to bring the guy down, who shouldn't have been brought down in the first place? It's in fact much more likely that many bullets will be wasted if you're trying to hit a moving target than you're going to get one person with each bullet. And the fact that this guy was not only ready and on the ball, but the fact that he got them with 1 each says that this is in fact not just any cop, but a very, very accurate cop and a very alert cop.
Right.
Well, hopefully he will retain his job. The government won't come down. The AG won't investigate him. The IRS won't check his
I
taxes.
think it's a little different in Texas.
Well, I think you're right. I think it is. I think there's a few people who might step up and say, no, that's not going to happen here.
Yeah, and he will have the support of the governor for sure.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So that was a potential disaster. And, of course, the left came along and said, well, it's Pam Geller's fault for trying to engage in free speech.
It's amazing. It's amazing how Chris Cuomo, who's on CNN, actually came out and said, well, free speech is okay, but hate speech is not covered by free speech. Which of course
it is.
The purpose of having a First Amendment is so that people can say odious, noxious things that we absolutely find abhorrent, but they have the right to say them. And
then they have the right to be excoriated in public,
castigated, exiled, whatever
for what they said, cast out of polite society. But they have the right to say them and not be automatically killed for them.
And do you know what the scary thing is about what you just said? Was that there is a large portion of our population that actually believes that's true, that believe that hate speech, you don't allow that, and they just believe that that's true, that that's part of the First Amendment, that you don't allow hate speech.
Well, they're being programmed. No, you can't hear it on the feed, but you have to listen to it on your side because my battery was about to die and we would lose the program. Anyway, Nicole Gelinas over at City Journal has a great piece about this. I linked to it this morning, but this was the pull quote that I took out. Speech is speech and shooting people is shooting people. Everyone who lives in a Western society should understand the distinction.
Wonderful. Wow.
I think that's great.
It's simple. It's simple. It's clean. It's neat. The left will hate it.
The left will.
The other thing I
hate it.
posted related to this was a comic who had to defend a tweet that he put up. Evan Sayet, and this is also linked on the front of GraniteGrock.com. His tweet was, "My favorite drawings at the Muhammad Cartoon Festival in Texas were the two chalk outlines out front."
Okay.
And he naturally the left went off on him. Some people thought it was inappropriate and rude, and he responded that it seems a little difficult. It seems irresponsible of people to have to force me to defend free speech.
There you go.
Over this, where we have terrorists who are attempting to kill people engaging in free speech. And he's
and it's amazing how people can take this cavalier attitude where if as Mike pointed out, that cop does not do what he does, those terrorists get into that event and start shooting people up, and we're talking about a huge tragedy that has been averted.
Well, and even if they don't, they shoot the cops, they shoot the other security that are there before they have a chance to respond.
Absolutely.
I mean, you've got two taxpayer-funded bullets,
right?
Two dead terrorists. There isn't a better calculus than that I can think of.
That is absolutely great. And so there was one other thing that I was thinking of. If you get into, as Jane said, the mindset that hate speech is bad, hate speech should be shut down. First of all, you're thinking like O'Reilly, which is not a good thing. Mm-hmm. Secondly, you end up with Canada. And if you think it can't happen here, read Mark Stein's book, Lights Out.
Excellent
about the battle to the death, practically, that he and the magazine Maclean's had with the basically
the Human Rights Commission,
the care of Canada, the Islamic organizations, and the Human Rights Commission people who have little tribunals in every city and state of Canada that have the right to declare you guilty, and you have to prove your innocence in much the same way.
That's exactly how it was, and he's like the first person who's managed to succeed to not be found guilty. I mean, everybody's been found guilty.
And he did to them what we do to some of our accusers, which he kept on ridiculing them, even as they tried to put him out of business.
All right, that's it for this week of Grok Talk. We'll be back next week with more news, more talk, more Grok Talk, more blah, 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 squirrels, etc., etc. Thanks a lot for listening. We'll talk to you next week.
Yeah, baby!
When asked whether she still supports Obamacare, Senator Jeanne Shaheen said,
"Yes, I do continue to support the law. We're beginning to see some positive results."
How can Senator Shaheen say we're seeing positive results when 22,000 of our neighbors have already lost their health insurance? What's worse, the Boston Globe reports the state's only health insurance provider radically reduced the number of hospitals in their network, forcing some people to drive over an hour for lab work, even when there's a hospital within a few miles of their home. When pressed about lack of access, Shaheen said,
There are some hospitals that are not covered, unfortunately, and I certainly hope that's going to change.
Jean Shaheen promised us we could keep our doctors and our healthcare coverage. Now she hopes we can get to a local hospital? Call Senator Shaheen at 603-647-7500. Tell her we need more than hope. We need leadership. Paid for by Citizens for a Strong New Hampshire.
Senator Jean Shaheen said, if you like your current health plan, you can keep it. That's not true, Senator. 22,000 New Hampshire citizens have been kicked off their insurance plans. Hospitals in Rochester, Concord, and Portsmouth, they aren't allowed to provide care under the exchange. Senator, you were wrong in your comments. You should apologize for your misleading remarks. I'm calling Senator Shaheen at 750-3004 and telling her I want my doctor back. You should too.
Paid for by saberpack.org, not authorized by any candidate or candidate committee.
All of the music on this program comes to us through Creative Commons licensing from Kevin MacLeod at Incompetech.com. The opinions expressed on this program are those of the speakers, not necessarily those of CNHT, GraniteRock.com, or anyone else for that matter.